could be some big news that happens this week when it pertains to college football. So I do think it's interesting. But in case you missed it, Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports is reporting a lot of the things that are going on behind the scenes when it comes to college football playoff expansion, probably going from 12 teams, which, by the way, we have not played yet. We have not played an expanded playoff beyond 4. It's only, we're going to 12, but we've only done a 14 playoff. So we don't even know the structure of what a 12 team would look like. But the powers that be wants to, at least it looks like they want to expand it to 14. But the expansion part in the reading, and Ross Dellinger puts this in his article, kind of has taken a pause because of what is going to go on with revenue. The automatic qualifiers has taken a pause because of revenue and what that would look like. Now, the Big Ten and the SEC are looking to take closer to 52 to 58%, depending on what article you read. And, I read something else that said maybe 52 to 58%, regardless of what that may look like. They've paused all other conversations about playoff expansion, automatic qualifiers, because there was a lot of pushback from the ACC, the Big 12, when it comes to the way that revenue is shared. And I got to be honest with you, I 1,000% agree with them to some extent. Let me explain. I am a person who believes that the 12 best teams in college football should get in. I do not believe in automatic qualifiers. So in this new playoff expanded world, we're looking at getting 3 permanent automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten. Same for the SEC. The ACC gets 2, the Big 12 gets 2, and then there's one group of 5, and the rest are at large. The 3 are at large. Here's a problem that I have with that. This isn't the NFL. This isn't your sports league or soccer that's in Europe. This isn't Major League Baseball. This isn't the NBA. This isn't professional sports, because you have over 130 teams in college football, all that technically could qualify for being in the playoff, even the G5 teams who could be the top seed of a group of 5 opponent that can be in. College football is different than every other sport that you know because of recruiting and the way that you build your team, the way that you build your roster. Guys, quite honestly, there's not 12 teams that can win it all. We're about to find that out, much less 14. We're about to find that out very quickly. The problem that I have as just a massive college football fan is this. Why do we need automatic qualifiers? Why can't we get the 12 best or 14 best teams? Why can't every team get the equal amount of revenue? Now, I do understand that the SEC and Big Ten will be a bigger draw for the playoff, and probably why they want more of the revenue. I understand that, and I don't necessarily even disagree with them on that. The biggest problem in all of this that I have, and I do think that this could happen, is that I think more and more, day in, day out, we are moving to a 2 massive conferences, being the Big Ten and the SEC. As this continues to play out, I think that's where we're going. Now, it's interesting because ESPN, ironically, along with Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, hold all the cards here. ESPN could, after the 2020, I think 6 or 2027 season, they could avoid their ACC contract, which would allow Florida State, as an example, to move on. ESPN can void it, and then the ACC would be dead in the water, which those teams would have to go to a different conference, either the SEC or probably the Big Ten. Here's where I see that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, who is quite honestly leading the charge on all of this, this is where the sport is going. Guys, we're going to 2 mega conferences. And I would assume that if it does not go the way that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey want, they'll go away from the college football playoff. Now, the issues that come in all this are Why can't we just have one sense structure? What would end all of it would be, hey, man, the 12 best teams get in the playoff. 14 best teams get in the playoff. Everybody gets a revenue share. If you're in this game, if you're in this game, if you're in this game, if you win, if you lose. It's how a lot of teams do it. It's how a lot of pro teams do it, at least. Now, maybe they don't have a better structure. Maybe they do. I don't know. But day in, day out, this sport comes to a place where it's all about the revenue and money. Everything that they need to figure out gets put on a back burner because they got to figure out revenue. Now, I do think, and have said for over a year, that Greg Sankey, for an example, has had a plan that he wants to put in place, and he's doing it very deliberately, but he's also doing it in stages, not doing it all at once. But if you think that he's not running how things go here, you're wrong. He is. Even if he does not have the title of this, he's pretty much more of an acting commissioner than we've ever seen because he holds all the cards here. He could tell ESPN, yeah, I don't think we need to do that, and ESPN will probably have to say yes. We won't do that. What gets missed in all of this is that the fans, you, I, a lot of people, some of you might have wanted an expanded playoff, and that's fine. More games, I get that. But when you add more playoff games, that means the regular season takes a little bit of a dip. It always will. It'll be just like the NFL does. If you lose a game versus your rival and you're still in good standing to make the playoffs, the loss, although it sucks, doesn't really matter. And that is what's made college football special in a lot of ways. What makes college football very special is that day in, day out, week in, week out, game in, game out, the intensity factor is so high because you really don't have a lot of slip-ups. In college football now, and especially in a 12-team playoff, guys, a team can have 2 slip-ups and still make a playoff and make a run. That does degrade the regular season. People that say that it doesn't, they're wrong. And they know that they're wrong. Guys, I started a business in 2017. And majority of what we do, majority of what I talk about, and even starting 2 other shows, this one being Around Your SEC and the Ruffino and Joe show, all of them circle college football. It's the favorite thing. It's my most favorite sport out there. Now, I love college baseball. I love it to death. Don't get what I'm saying twisted. I just don't know where we're heading here. And, I've heard the rumors like you have in reference to, well, would the SEC and the Big Ten, would they do their own thing? Would they go away from the playoff and the NCAA? You're damn right they would, because they're making more money than anybody. They're making more money than anyone. They can, quite honestly, because of the revenue that is generated, what the fans generate for college sports in the South and in the Midwest, is what determines this. That's why they hold all the cards. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out, man. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how college football winds up shaking up. I will tell you, and people say that I am when I say this, that it's just a very overall negative take. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. And maybe they need to get worse before they get better so that you can find your structure. That may be true. But if it takes a decade to do that, if it takes, because look, in 2030, we may have structure, right? Like we might have more of a structured base of what college football looks like. That doesn't stop the most chaotic 10 years of college sports and athletics and football that we've had. A decade is a long time. A decade is a long time. Some of you may be in your mid-30s, your mid-40s. Rewind the clock 10 years. Where were you 10 years ago today? What were you doing? Don't tell me that it's not a long time. And changes are always going to continue to happen in college sports. If there's one thing that NIL and the portal has taught us, or realignment has taught us, is that things are always going to continue to change in college athletics. What I told you 3 years ago remains the same and true today. You can be mad at the players because of NIL and the portal. But the biggest worries that I always had and will continue to have is not what the players are doing. Guys, quite honestly, players getting paid for their name, image, and likeness, and players leaving to go to a better program or going to a program so that they can get playing time, does it affect the sport? 1,000%. It 1,000% does. Nothing has changed the sport more than the suits and the bureaucrats that are trying to make more money for themselves. And you know, and I know, your grandma knows, everybody knows that guys like probably Greg Sankey, administrators, are getting money underneath the table from these big TV bureaucrats that are trying to make more money for themselves. That's how this game works. Now, you can say, Blake, that's not happening, but you know how deep room politics works. You're not immune to this. You've never been immune to this. You people that are grown, look, if you have a house, a mortgage, a family, and you've grown up and you're grown now, you know how backdoor office politics works. You know how politics works in general. To tell me that ESPN, CBS, Fox aren't doing backdoor shady deals so that they can get more money and how they're running college football, you're crazy to think that that's not happening. Nothing has changed the sport more. Nothing has changed the sport more than suits and bureaucrats that you have no idea who they are. Some of these people in the college football playoff committee, as an example, guys, don't even have football at their own programs. There's athletic directors on the playoff committee. Guys, they don't even have football at their schools. Yeah, let's let those guys run college football because they know how it's supposed to be done day in and day out, week in and week out. Sure. That's some good coffee. Sure, you do. All right. Always something here, man. Always something when it comes to college sports. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. All right. 42 of you on YouTube. We need you to do us a favor. Hit that like button for us. Hit that share.